So here I'm going to show you everything you need to rig a float line to fish for panfish. You're going to have your fishing line that will already be attached to your fishing pole and your reel. You'll need a float or a bobber, a hook, and some weight. Now your float can be either a plastic red and white typical round bobber. It could be a slide float that's meant to go up and down your line to control how deep your line goes, or it could be a stagnant weighted float like this one. I like the weighted float because you can control where you're fishing in the water column, and the weight is meant to keep your bobber up and down in the water column. You'll need weight. I have here split shot. That's typically what you'll use on these types of rigs. This weight is meant to get your small hook, which doesn't have a ton of weight, and the floatiness of your line down to where the fish are. So here I have a float line already set up, starting with the float. You're going to want, if you have a weighted float, to have the weight towards your hook, so that will keep it up and down in the water. You'll have about 1.5 feet to 2 feet of line attached to your weight, and about halfway down is where you'll put your split shot. That has like about either 6 inches or a foot of line until your hook. So I'll start off showing you how to attach a float to your line. So typically your line will already be attached to your fishing pole, so you'll have some sort of tension. You can see here I have my fishing line. And I'll show you, you take your bobber, you'll start out about 2 feet up from the end of where you're going to put the hook on, and you'll start with the top of it. So if you push down here, you can see that there's a tiny little hook there. That's the first thing you're going to hook onto your line, like that. So it closes down. It can slide currently, but I'll show you how to get it to stop sliding. So then you're going to take the other side. In order to get this next hook here out, you're going to have to push both this plastic part and the hook down. You see there that gets the hook out. So if you just wrap it around once, you can see that this line will still move. So in order to stop that from happening, you're just going to want to wrap this one time and a second time around. That way your float stays in place. Now that you have your float on, you'll probably go about halfway down to the end of your line. You can see the end of the line is here. About halfway. I like to hold it in a loop just so I can maintain control. You'll take your split shot. You can see that there's these wings here and a slit in the top of the split shot. So you're going to want to put your line through that. Now, you can either pinch this yourself. I like to use my pliers to pinch this down. And you're going to want to pinch it pretty hard to keep that weight from sliding around on your line. So, yeah, once you're done, your split shot should be attached like that. So now we'll attach the hook. I'll show you 2 different knots you can use. Typically, these are super easy knots to get your hook attached to the end of your line. So you'll go to the end of your line. The first one you can do, I have a size 6 hook here that I'm going to use. That's this one. So typically you'd start out, I would start out by making a loop in the end of your fishing line. I've left about 1 inch on the downward side of my finger. You're going to pinch this so that this loop can go through the hole here. You see, it went through there. You're going to pull it through, but not all the way. You want to leave some of this tail out here. Then you're going to tie this just like you would tie your shoe through here. And you're going to want this loop to go through the loop between your line, your fingers, and the hook. So that'll go through here. Now you don't want to pull this all the way through. Now you have just your typical shoelace tied loop with a loop at the end and the end of your line in this hand. You're going to take that loop and put it all the way around your hook, like that. So once that's through, you want to make sure that when you're pulling it tight, that the bottom loop doesn't get stuck on the downward edge of that loop, and you're just going to pull it tight. And that shouldn't go anywhere. And then you're going to want to trim this extra so it's not, the fish can't see it and it's not in the way. You don't want to trim it too close because then your line might come undone, but you want to leave just a little bit. You can see there. And then you have your hook. Now I said that I would show you a different knot to use. So you're going to take the end of your line. This time, you're going to go directly through, so no loop this time. You're going to want a little bit of extra on this side. You can trim the extra off later, but I find it helpful. You're going to want to twist this, have a loop here, and twist this line around each other, probably like 4 to 6 times. You're going to take the end of that and put it through. You can see that. Put it through here, grab it. You want to make sure that it doesn't slip back through while you're pulling the line down. But you just pull that tight and you can see your line there. Then you can just trim off that little extra bit. So now that I've shown you how to rig this up, you're ready to use a float line to catch panfish. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you catch lots of fish.